Hello. 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 Test. 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 Can I have more people here? We'll wait for a few more seconds. Now, test. 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 Who is Shan? Who is Shan? Who is Shan? Now, I'm going to tell you something listen very carefully. Listen very carefully to the four of you. So, Jaden, Shane, and okay, let me spread it out. Okay, wait. Give me 1 minute. 1 minute. Anh cậy đây. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. Hello, 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 hello. Mervin. 2F. How can I help 2F? How? How? I also don't know how. Okay, let's start. Now, first question is your inference question. Now, when you do an inference, how do you make sure your inference is specific? Okay? You have to be wary of what is the issue, what is the main issue. Okay? When you do your inference, you have to check out what is the main issue. You cannot just infer in isolation. You cannot just infer about a character inside the source. You have to look at the bigger picture, which is the Japanese occupation, which is treatment of the Japanese, which is the merger, which is the separation. You have to look for what is the bigger issue when you do your inference. Secondly, when you infer, right, you must look at the source as a whole. Okay, this doesn't mean just reading the source. You have to read it carefully. Okay, read carefully and look out for what is the argument. What is the main argument? Not just any argument, but the main argument. Okay, you cannot just take one part of the source and tell me that he is doing this. It doesn't work this way. Okay, you have to look at the whole source. Example, let me give you an example. Okay, example, there's a man and an apple on his head. There's another, there's a man and an apple on his head, and there's an arrow. Okay, the next panel, you see the man, the apple. Okay, this man says, I hope he doesn't miss. Okay, I hope he does not miss. And the next scene, you see a man apple and an arrow shooting through the apple. Okay, so if you just look at this part alone, you will say that the guy has a tremendous aim. The aim of the archer is good. Okay, if you just look at these two things, you will say the aim of the archer is good. But then in the final panel of the comic, you will see the man with the apple on his head, the arrow shot through his head, and here you will see the archer, and to everybody's surprise, the archer is actually an apple. It's the apple archer. So, did the apple archer really, was it good? Was the archer really good? No, because the apple was supposed to shoot the man. That was his intention, but he shot the apple instead, which is his own kind. And here you see all the apple families all feeling very upset that the thing didn't go well because he shot the apple instead. When he's an apple, he's supposed to shoot the man. So what's my point in this whole story? The point of this whole story is that you have to look at the whole story and not just part of it. Can you see the screen? Can you see things on the screen? Test, test, test. Can you see things on the screen? Yes, you can. Yes? So the point of this thing is to see that you cannot just look at one part of the source and make your inference. You have to look at the whole source, which will drastically change your inference. Okay? So that's point number 2. Okay, and look for the deeper issue. What is the deeper issue of the source? I know it's difficult, but if you read carefully, you should be able to get it. The deeper issue of the source. And lastly, when you do an inference, your inference has to be specific. Okay, what do I mean by specific? I mean that you cannot say I can infer about the apple. Okay, let's look at the apple as the subject. And you say I can infer about the apple. The source says blah 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 blah. Is this correct? No, this is not correct. Why? Because you did not tell me what about the subject do you infer about. So if you do it properly, you should say that I can infer that the apple is sweet. Okay, here is the subject and here is your inference. Is sweet. Okay, so your inference has to be very, very direct. Yes, it has to be direct. It has to have the subject and it has to be direct. So SD, subject, direct. Okay, so that's the first part. Now, when you do comparison, okay, level 2, when you move to comparison skills, you must ensure that you know what you are comparing. Okay, your basis of comparison is very important. Let me give you one example. Let's say you talk about difference. So you say both sources. Okay, wait. Before I do this, there's two kinds. Okay, there's two kinds of comparisons that you can do when you talk about difference. Okay, there's two kinds. The first kind is a yes or no type. Means that the difference is either he is like this or he is not like this. Whether the Japanese are harsh or they are kind, right? Kind which is not harsh. Yes, so this is one kind of difference that you will get. Yes and no kind. Both have the similar subject. Both must have the subject and the inference about the subject. Okay, and the question is whether it is a yes or no with regards to the inference. The inference of the subject, the Japanese are harsh, right? Or the inference is the Japanese is kind, or in other words, not harsh. So this is one kind of difference in that you take the direct inference and then you question whether it is true or it's not true. Yes or no, true or false. This is the first kind of difference that you will see in the source-based question. Okay, so for the second kind is about aspects. Okay, what do I mean by aspects? I mean, in a certain situation, there can be many aspects, or you can say there can be many reasons or aspects, right? A boy. Let's say a very generic example. Okay, a boy is good in sports. Yes, but the question is not whether he is good or not. Okay, it is confirmed that he is good in sports. So what do I mean by aspects? In what aspect is he good in sports? Is it because his fitness is high? Fitness level is good? That attributes to the reason, the aspect why he's good in sports? Or is it due to, I don't know, his skills, his natural talent? Yes. So both these things contribute to someone being good in sports, but there are different aspects of why he's good. It's either good because fitness or good because skills. But the main comparison you're making is on they are different in telling me in what way or in what aspect is he good in sports, or what are the reasons why he is good in sports. Okay, so this is the two kinds of way that they can give you a difference question. So when you look at the main statement, okay, when you look at the main statement, you'll say something like this, right? Both sources are different in the reason. Okay, let's do similarity first. Both sources are similar in telling me the reason for separation is what? Is economic reasons. Okay, let's say you're talking about this. Now, what is the subject here? The main issue is separation. Okay, this is your main issue. A. What about separation are you inferring about? That is the criteria. Okay, the criteria. What are you inferring about? Is your C. CA. Criteria. Aspect. I mean main issue. Subject. CS. CS. Subject. So criteria. Subject. And then your inference. Okay, your inference is economic. So both sources are similar in telling me that the economic reason for the reason for separation is economic disagreements. Can? Now when you do a different statement, okay, you have to be mindful that in your criteria you only give me the C and the S. That means the criteria and the subject. What about the subject are you inferring about? That is for difference criteria. So you will say both sources are different in telling me what. Oh no, not telling me. Sorry. So you don't use telling me. Okay, you say with regards to. Okay, with regards to what? To the reason. And reason is your C, right? It's your criteria. Reason for. What is the subject? Separation. Okay, so it's very simple. Criteria and your subject C and S forms your first line of your difference statement. You're comparing the reason for separation, and then in the next line, that is where your inferences come in, because your difference lies in the inference. Okay, so A tells me the reason is economic disagreements. Okay, you're talking about the same thing, which is the reason for separation. But in A, the reason is economic situation. However, in B, it tells me, Okay, this is your I. Okay, the reason is not economic anymore, it is security. Okay, so can you see in your difference, the C and the S, the criteria and the subject are the same. It's the reason for separation. That is what you're comparing. The difference is the inference. A tells me the reason is economic development. B tells me the reason is security. So that is how you do a good comparison. But if you're writing similar, you just need to write the CSI in the first line, because the inferences are the same. Inferences about what about the criteria and the subject are the same. It is economic developments. But for difference, the inference are different. So the criteria is the same, which is the reason for separation, as in that's what you're talking about. But the reason is different. The inference is different. Okay? So that is how you do a difference and similarity question. Now, what I just did here, the example I just did here falls under aspects, right? If you see difference in aspects. But what about if you see difference in terms of yes and no? Okay, true or false, yes and no. In terms of the inference, well, it's actually the same thing. Okay, so you will write something like this: both sources. Okay, let's say the issue is this: the Japanese, are Japanese harsh? Are the Jap people harsh? Right? So your similarity will go like this: both are similar in telling me that the Japanese are harsh. Okay, let's say that this is your similarity. Okay, this is correct. Both are similar in telling me the Japanese are harsh. But you'll notice here that in a yes or no, true or false kind of comparison, there is no criteria. Okay, remember the CSI thing: criteria, subject, and inference. Here there's no criteria. Here there's a subject, which is the Japanese, and there's an inference, whether they are harsh. Okay, the criteria is actually hidden inside the sentence. Because if I were to rephrase this, okay, what actually is the criteria? What are you looking out for? Okay, if I can rephrase this, it will look like this: both sources are similar in telling me that the harshness of the Japanese. Okay, this is kind of wrong. Okay, let's rephrase this. Okay, in a sense, when you look at this thing, what is actually the criteria? The criteria becomes the inference. So the criteria now becomes the harsh. Okay, this becomes the C. Okay, what are you comparing? You're comparing the harsh, whether the Japanese are harsh. So this is what you're comparing, whether the Japanese are harsh. So what is your subject? It would be the Japanese. Yes, this would become the subject. And what is the inference? The inference become either yes or no. Okay, so I can infer that yes, the Japanese were harsh, or I can infer that no, the Japanese were not harsh. Okay, so the criteria is actually implied in the sentence when you say that you're telling me the Japanese are harsh. Okay, both are similar in telling me the Japanese are harsh. But if you write a different statement, okay, you have to make sure that this C here becomes very obvious, and it cannot be a direct inference. It has to appear as a criteria. So you would say both sources are different in regards to whether, right? Because it's yes or no, right? So it's whether what are you comparing? The Japanese are harsh. Okay, you're comparing the harshness, or the whether it is harsh or not harsh, and the Japanese are harsh or not. Okay, so be on the lookout for what is the criteria, what is the subject, and what is the inference that you must find. Okay, so this is for the comparison question. Okay, if you don't want to use good, you can use things like beneficial, positive, it was well received, right? It was acknowledged, it was highly successful, it was appreciated, the outcome was achieved. There's so many ways that you can write it instead of writing the word good. Okay, so that is how you do a proper comparison question. You need to look up, in fact, in any inference questions, you have to look out for the C and the S and the I, which is the subject you're inferring. What about the subject you're inferring about, and of course your inference. So it can either be explicitly a CSI, or it can be an implied C and a yes and no. Okay? So, are you clear on this? Are you clear? Are you clear? Are you clear? To the 7 people here. Now, I want to talk about one more thing, okay, which will help you greatly, and that is how do you make your one more thing about this specificness. Specific. Okay, this word specific, it is a narrow term, but it's also a broad term. Broad in the sense that your inference has to relate to the entirety of the source. So it must be specific to the source. But yet, it must also be narrow in the sense that your information has to be detailed to the source and not vague information. Okay? I do not like to see vague information. So, how do I put it this way? Let's say that there's a judge here. Okay, this man is the judge. Okay, and this guy is on trial. Okay, this man is standing on trial. Okay, there's a judge here. This guy says that I did not steal. Okay, but this guy says yes, you did. And now you're reading a source coming from this guy, which tells me that no, I did not steal. Now, when you look at a picture like this, and they ask you to infer something about this picture, what will you say? What will you infer about this picture? If you see something like this, a guy saying that I did not steal, and then a judge saying that yes, you did, and then the source you get is about the guy's testimony, in which he says that he did not steal. Yes? Now, what exactly are you inferring? Okay, what are you inferring? Now, if you say that I can infer that this man is innocent, if you say innocent, I can infer this man is innocent. This is called sub-inference. Okay, it is a vague inference. Why is it vague? Because you're not talking about this part, the stealing part. You have to mention it. So he is innocent of his crimes of theft. Okay, this is level 1 answer. You just say he is innocent. A level 2 answer, you not only say he's innocent, but you say specifically that he's innocent of the crime of theft. Okay, this is a level 2 answer, but this is also not the correct answer, because you have to look at the whole issue here. Okay, if you say that this man is innocent of the crime of theft, that means that you're only looking at this part of the source, correct? And you're making an inference based on this part only. Yes, when actually your source also contains this part. Okay, so your inference has to be about the whole thing. Okay, but yet it also has to encompass this part in relation to this. So what is a proper and correct inference for this? It should be, which is level 3, that this man is wrongly accused wrongly, as he is innocent of his crime. Yes, that should be the correct answer, the level 3 answer. You have to look beyond just this part and what the guy is saying. You have to look at him in relation to the bigger picture. Okay, so the main point of this source is that he's being wrongly accused of his crimes of theft. So everything in the source combined together will give you a correct inference. Okay? Again, these two things are what I want to tell you tonight. I hope that you can do your inference well. I think I'll end here because there's only 3 people. I don't think it's worth it to carry on. So, do you have any questions? Okay, if no questions, then I think we can call it a night. Okay, good night. Have fun. Hope you enjoy the test tomorrow. Do it carefully, please.